It's that time again. The annual conference of the American Society of Ag Consultants, otherwise known as ASAC, is going to be held in Fort Myers, Florida, this November 4th and 5th. Kurt Covington is one of 9 professionals who will address the conference. The other speakers who will cover a wide range of topics represent Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Citrus Commission, University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, National Ag Law Center, Risk Mitigators and Advisors, Tyler Associates, as well as the lead economist for dairy at CoBank, and myself, Chrissy Wozniak from North American Ag. The day and a half of presentations will be followed by ag tours on Tuesday afternoon at Echo Farms, one of my favorite places here in Fort Myers. Attendees will experience farming at its most creative, with unique demonstrations, plants, and techniques being used to help farmers and urban gardeners in developing countries. A second tour at Echo will showcase simple technologies that can improve food, water, and shelter for millions of people. A third tour of a hydroponic grower is also being planned. For more information and to register, visit www.agconsultants.org. That's www.agconsultants.org. See you there. Today's Ag Spotlight episode is sponsored by Coolers. Make every day a cool day for your cows. The Coolers system allows you to control the cow's environment 24/7. For more information, go to NorthAmericanAg.com and find them in the Industry Connect section. Hi, and welcome to the North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. My guest today is from Dallas, Texas, and is the CEO of Eden Green Technology, a vertical farming technology company dedicated to changing the way our food is farmed and feeding our communities. I would like to welcome Eddy Badrina. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Awesome. So can you tell me a bit about your background?
Sure. So I come actually from a technology and a government background. So I spent 6 years in Washington, D.C., working for the government, and 2 years for the White House under George W. Bush, and then came back to Texas and went into a career in technology, was a part of a technology telecom startup, and then started an ad marketing technology company, and then sold that, and came on board with Eden Green in 2019. And it's really the fit. A lot of people ask me, like, okay, how did you get from MarTech to AgTech? And it really is the way that I like to see our platform is we just want to be the grower's grower and provide a platform that allows for efficient, economically viable and safe produce. And so, we just provide a technology platform and try to grow the best produce that we can. And so in that sense, it could be, software as a service. It could be technology service. We just happen to be greenhouse as a service. So that's my connection into going from government to technology and then now into this.
Right. Oh, that's really cool. So how did Eden Green start? And tell me more about that.
So it was started by 2 South Africans. They actually literally invented the technology in their garage in South Africa.
Wow.
And they brought it over to the United States in 2017. But if you can imagine inventing technology in South Africa, you have to be very resourceful, very efficient. And so when they invented our growing towers, which are patented for design and usage here in the United States and then a number of other countries, they had to do it from a very efficient, economical perspective first, and then find the funding later. In stark comparison to a lot of our peers who have a ton of money thrown at it at the very beginning to solve a problem, but haven't found the sustainability, the economic sustainability part of it yet. So the 2 brothers are still my CTO and COO respectively. And they're mad scientists and they're always looking to innovate and looking to make our platform better for the grower. So, but they're still on board and it's great to be working with them.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so what is vertical growing? Like, let's just break it right down.
Yeah. So, we kind of stand in the middle of 2, I would say, on 2 ends of a spectrum. And one end is the greenhouse grower that most of us are familiar with, and it's flat tray hydroponics usually. And it's great. It's 10 acres of greenhouses, usually to about equal to about 40 acres of conventional open field farming. The problem is with greenhouse farming, it's economically profitable, but it's still very much a lot of land usage and then a lot of light usage. You have to, have lights over those entire 10 acres. And so when you're thinking about the supply chain and trying to shortening those food miles, you can't do that with greenhouse growers. On the other hand, you have vertical farming, which is usually all indoors. It's all supplemental lighting. And while it's very dense in its footprint, about an acre and a half to 2 acres is equal to 40 acres of traditional farming. The problem is the capital expenditure on it is so expensive, and the OpEx through light electricity costs and through robotics is so expensive. There's no way it's ever going to be, at least in our lifetime, going to be remotely sustainable economically. And so we sit in the middle. We try to combine the best of both worlds of the economic efficiency and the light usage of greenhouses with the density of vertical farming. And we're able to do that like no one else because of the way that these growing towers are designed. And so that in a nutshell is what we do. It's a hybrid of greenhouse as well as vertical farming.
Wow, that's great. So you pretty much answered my next question, was how are vertical greenhouses more sustainable than traditional farms? And so what you're saying is it's less energy input, less cost at the beginning, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So an acre and a half of our greenhouse will have around 300,000 plant spots in it.
Wow.
And because of the way the nutrients are fed and because of our ability to control light intensity, humidity, water temperature, water nutrient levels, CO2, the turns on in our greenhouse are, depending on the varietal, right, is anywhere from 28 to 35 days per harvest.
Wow.
And so when you can generate 11 to 13 harvests per year, man, that totally changes the ball game in terms of the economics, but also in terms of consistent fresh produce. And the biggest things, I've talked with a ton of farmers here in Texas of, hey, are you trying to replace us? And the answer is no way. There are a lot of things we can't grow, right? And a lot of things that we don't want to grow. We're not the silver bullet. Neither is any other vertical farming or indoor farming technology out there today. None of it's going to be the silver bullet, and none of it's going to replace a traditional farmer. But we do think there are certain crops and certain varietals that are our competitive advantage. Just like for certain crops and varietals, it's the traditional open field farming that has a competitive advantage. And we just want to come alongside them and say, hey, you do what you do really, really well. And you're the backbone of America and the backbone of our economy. And let us do what we do really, really well. And then I think there's enough mouths to feed that we can work really, really well together.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of traditional crop growers, corn, soybeans, cotton, I bet you they're listening right now going, I wish I could control every part of the weather and make my crop shorter. And right. So it is really incredible what can happen inside of a greenhouse or in vertical farming. It is amazing what technology has done, both on an open field farming and for what you do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually gotten a lot of interest from regenerative farmers because they see they see the ecosystem that they're trying to save, and they're trying to regenerate through different types of crops, right? Crop cycling, but then they also just see the environmental benefits of having a greenhouse for certain type of crops, and that's really, really appealing to them. I think the other thing that is probably appealing to the farmer, the traditional farmer, from our perspective, is that we're not trying to replace workers with robotics either. The economics in our greenhouses are good enough to where we can employ actually up to 30 full-time people in our greenhouses. And so just the idea of just, robots moving, trays around and, all that to us, I mean, that is a possible facet of the future of farming. But in our world, at least for our greenhouses, we love the fact that we can employ up to 30 full-time jobs. That's something I'm really proud of.
Yeah, that's really incredible. And did I freeze a little bit there? I'm not sure. Was it okay? Did
No,
it
you're
look
good.
okay? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. It just said my internet connection is a little unstable, but
Yeah,
that's
your bars look yellow. It's full bars, but yellow. So
yeah. All right. All right. We'll keep going. I'll just edit out this part here. So what produce do you assist in growing?
So our system can grow around 75 varietals of leafy greens, herbs, and even strawberries, as well as hemp and cannabis. They can grow it economically viable. But we've tested over 200 varietals of plants and produce in our system. For us, it really comes down to the economic viability, right? Unless you're doing some sort of R&D research type project where you're not really worried about volume and yield per square foot, then absolutely we can grow hundreds upon hundreds of type of varietals. But when it comes to just growing the basics for what most consumers are wanting and needing, it's around 75 different economically viable varietals, and that could be kale, spinach, arugula, of course, lettuce, all sorts of lettuce, butter, red oak, green oak, romaine, right? But then you get into herbs like rosemary and thyme and basil, and then into some of the other sort of what we call cut and come again type herbs, and then even the strawberries.
Very good. And your website says that you can build vertical farms to scale. Does that mean you'll work with any size of grower?
Yeah. So, obviously there's a point as you grow smaller and smaller where it doesn't make economic sense, right? There's a law of diminishing returns there. But past I would say past, call it half an acre, you start to see some meaningful profit margins. And our typical module size is about an acre and a half. Yeah.
Right. That's great. And the future of growing produce is definitely is fine tuning and expanding the technology. So what do you see in the future of vertical farming that doesn't exist maybe right now?
I think, what it doesn't exist right now, honestly, is profitability, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's vertical farming is always going to stay on the edges or be some really high end consumer product until it can find profitability for mass consumption, right? We get a lot of questions about, hey, how are you compared to organic? And what about the biomes in your hydroponic system? And my answer is like, I mean, I can dive into the weeds on that, but the reality is 99% of consumers aren't worried about that stuff. 99% of consumers just want reliable, safe, nutritious produce at a good price that they can bring home to their families every day. And the vertical farming right now cannot answer that question really well without some heavy subsidies. So I think the future of it looks something, it has to include economic sustainability. Otherwise, it'll always be a sideshow.
Right. Yeah. And so if you have somebody, a producer that's like, okay, I want to switch to vertical. I want to do this. What is that process? What do you take them through from beginning to end?
So, we take a look at, hey, it all starts with the consumer. And again, it's funny, the producers and the folks in this industry who've been in this industry know it's all about the consumer on price and taste. And that's pretty much it. Right. And freshness is a close third. Right. A lot of our peers have no clue about that. Or they're just starting to get a sense of it. And they're really focused on the looks. They're focused on like just numbers. And so when we talk to growers and producers, we just say, hey, what's the consumer asking for? What are your distributors asking for? What are your retailers asking for? And then let's start from there, right? And then, what are the economics behind those? And can we be a value add to, what you're already producing? Right? Can we come in and build these things and then offer these at a better price or at the same price, but more consistency and a higher quality? Or a little higher price, but you're willing to to charge a little bit more because you can get it 12 months around the year, and you're not going to have any sort of bacterial outbreak, right? So there's some levers that we play with, but it really comes down to, hey, what do your consumers want, and what are they willing to pay for it, and can we fit into that in an economically viable model better than what you're already doing?
Right. Yeah. And I worked in the greenhouse industry for many years, both working in greenhouses when I was younger and then for a manufacturer later. What I learned is that delicate balance that is just so perfectly fine tuned between temperature, between light, between soil or how you're feeding your nutrition. And so how there are so many options for each of those things. Mm-hmm. So how do you decide? Well, how do you decide what gets what? And, I know that's a really big question. That's a huge question, but kind of what are your thought processes there in deciding?
So, first of all, I have an amazing team behind me who are a lot smarter than me. And one of them includes our head of horticulture, and he's really focused on, hey, what's the best thing for the plants at any given time? And then how can we make things better in terms of lights? We're always testing. That's the great thing about technology and about our industry is if you're doing it correctly, you're always testing to make the plant better, and not just look better, but taste better, to be safer, right? And so whether it's the two co-founders, or whether it's a head of horticulture, or whether it's our food safety director, we're always looking to make the plants tastier, grow, larger, have larger yields in the same amount of time, and then be safe. And so all of those aspects of nutrition and air humidity levels and the type of lights and the spectrum that we have on them all come down to one of those three metrics. Is it safer? Can it grow larger in the same amount of time? And it can be consistent year round.
Right. Yeah. And the pandemic has really exposed a lot of serious weaknesses in our food system. Mm-hmm. And in your opinion, what are some of those solutions? What can we do better?
I think what we can do better is, from our perspective, bring the harvests closer to the consumer. Every food mile that we can delete or diminish just results in longer time on shelf, less waste, right? And also too is I think that the industry can learn a lot from these technologists about how they're thinking about light sources, how they're thinking about water usage, how we're thinking about land usage, right? And then we can learn a lot from, and we are learning a lot from the traditional farmer about just the ebbs and flows of nature, right? And Mother Nature will always find a way. And we see that in greenhouses. I think to totally delete Mother Nature from the growing experiences of the plants is not. I don't think it's not the best for the consumer, and so we're trying to learn a lot just from traditional farmers, and not be so adversarial of coming in and just a bull in a china shop in terms of technology taking over this industry.
That's it. And I think that's a struggle with a lot of producers across North America, even in, dairy barns with 600 head of cows. How do we keep it from being machine-like and keep the heart of the farmer alive, keep the family farm alive at the same time? Mm-hmm. So do you experience the same?
We are. We're actually, it's really fun because we're able to employ these 30 people per greenhouse module. And most people that are looking at ours are looking at two or three modules in one setting. It just makes sense, right? So you're looking at upwards, 80 to 100 people employed there. Well, that's a new generation of urban ag, professionals and urban farmers in a way that's not really been looked at before. And so for us, I think it's a really encouraging and just an encouraging experience to see this new generation of young folks coming out of college and coming into our greenhouses and working there. And I think, that is to be able to educate them on, hey, this is where this is not only this is where your food comes from, but you can be an integral part of it. And we need humans to be an integral part of it. I think that's a huge step in the right direction in terms of, making the overall food supply chain safer and more accessible. Because when people know a friend of a friend who works there, or they know where their food is coming from, that doesn't just change the supply chain. It changes the way people eat. It changes the culture inside of our homes to eat more greens, to eat more nutritious plant-based type of foods because there's just a relational connection that wasn't there before.
Right. So, in thinking about the traditional problem or the growing problem of hiring workers in agriculture, do you think that you can, with this model, get more buy-in then?
Yeah. Hiring, when people know that they can have a living day's wage with health benefits and they don't have to migrate anywhere. Mm-hmm. And then at least in our particular company, we really try to espouse a good work-life balance. So our people don't work on weekends. They're not working 16-hour days, right? Because guess what? The plants grow without us, right? So plants grow on the weekends. It's kind of crazy, but we really try to espouse that in the culture of our company, and I think that's attracted a lot of folks who are looking at their lives and saying, "Hey, I want to work differently." And we have folks who are coming outside of the industry who start off as production assistants. And it's just because they see it's a different way to live and work. And so I think that's how we're changing that model in terms of employment within the ag industry.
Yeah, that's really important. And I think that the schools have a role too. They should be embracing these ag jobs and it's not glamorizing them, but making known. When I went to school, I had no idea there were jobs in agriculture. I thought I wanted to be a farmer. I didn't realize anything about agribusiness. I didn't realize that there were these opportunities available, and that they're very fulfilling careers as well.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be really surprised. I mean, Cleburne is 20 minutes from Fort Worth, but the diversity of backgrounds, as well as just the people themselves that work in our greenhouses, is incredible. I mean, and it just goes to show you, it is a totally different model of the ag industry that is attractive to this new set of workers. And so just the thought that, hey, you don't have to, just this thought of you don't have to leave the city to go work in a farm is cool. A totally, I mean, that's just a paradigm altering sort of mindset, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's really cool. So where can people get more information?
So they can go to edengreen.com, like EDEN, Garden of Eden, like that, edengreen.com. Or, on socials, all of our socials, it's just Eden Green Tech. And you can find us there. And we'd love to, talk to folks who are interested in, licensing a greenhouse, talk to folks who are interested in needing more consistent supply. If they've got POs that they need to fulfill, that they have a hard time with their contract growers or their subs, we'd love to be able to, have the opportunity to fill in that gap. And then we'd love to talk to folks who are interested in working with us and who see a new way of doing agriculture, especially closer to the urban populations.
Right. That's excellent. And I have one last question for you. Why are you so passionate about these issues and about horticulture?
I'm trying to build what's called a redemptive organization. And that's an organization where the leaders eat last, where they're sacrificial, where the employees are not just treated fairly, but they're treated generously and they're blessed. And then the third is where culture and society is not just advanced, but it's renewed and redeemed and restored because our organization exists. And I, for one, can think of no better way to integrate all three of those than in an ag company. I mean, because it is the food is the backbone of our economy, and the ag industry is the backbone of our economy. And so if I can, that's why I'm passionate about it, because I see those three things being played out in a number of industries, but I think it's particularly useful and particularly appropriate in the ag industry.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your input and what you guys are doing as a company.
Thanks so much, Chrissy. Had a great time.
Yeah. And thanks to all who are watching or listening. If you want more information, all the links will be provided in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe to our North American Egg Spotlight on YouTube and Rumble channels. And on the podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And have a great day. Thanks so much for listening to today's Egg Spotlight episode, where we put the spotlight on people and companies doing great things for the agricultural industry. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or on your favorite podcasting platform, and give us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on YouTube and Rumble to see the video version of Ag Spotlight. Also, head on over to NorthAmericanAg.com to subscribe to our Industry Connect update newsletter. If you're interested in advertising opportunities, email us at connect@NorthAmericanAg.com. Thanks for listening.